Take that order!
If we can't live in peace, then let's die in peace.
And I am a genius in exploitation.
Whatever you do right now, don't you stop tithing.
In this video, I'm going to talk about sensitive issues. It personally touched my heart, and my purpose is not to mess with people's beliefs. I will have to censor some words to avoid the video being deleted. I will speak from a general perspective and from my point of view as a Christian. You don't see many believers talking about this. Maybe because they think it's negative to the church or for the community, but today I raise my voice because silence is not going to fix anything. If one wants a solution, first we have to evidence that the problem exists and try to identify some signs, some red flags to try to stop it before it becomes more dangerous to the person or persons affected. According to the Raniere, it is the excessive, unjust, improper use of something or someone. There are several types of abuse, but I am going to focus on the abuse of power and spiritual abuse because I personally consider that any kind of power can lead you to abuse others. Power is the ability of a person, situation, or thing to influence, modify, or alter positively or negatively a certain reality. Therefore, the abuse of power is the improper use of the capacity of influence a person over another person, which usually causes damage of various kinds. The greater the power, the greater the risk to abuse. People with the least power are the most likely to be abused. The most prone are children, the poor, women, among others. On the other hand, among the people likely to be abusers are politicians, spiritual leaders, business leaders, among others. I said that I was going to talk about spiritual abuse more, but I also want to give some examples of something we can see maybe daily. There can be abuse in families because of the dependence of the children on their parents, or the wife on her husband, or the other way. You may hear things like, you have to pleasure me because you are dependent on me. Another example is in jobs, abuse in working more hours, verbal, emotional, inhuman treatment. Manipulation occurs when an individual or group of individuals take control of the behavior of a person or a group using persuasion or suggestions techniques. There are many cases of spiritual gurus who have been accused of creating cults. You can find some stories right here in YouTube of those who have managed to speak out. Most of them consider that they were in a kind of healing therapy where they are moving you emotionally. It generates this sensitive environment where you feel that they got right in those areas of pain and they can be healed through the methods that the spiritual leader says. The victim allowing these things to happen is just a response to this mind game. You become paralyzed and you respond the way they want you to respond. This sect was known for its program too, which was a pyramid where he was the great master and women were entering down the pyramid. They were branded with Kate initials. They had to record a video which they could use in future for extortion, so they don't talk about what is happening in the cult. These groups he managed were beep. You had to give something in return to be part of the group. As you advance with the things that they tell you to do, you become a recruiter. You were practically a woman bringing more women to serve the leader. And the heart of the teaching was to disregard their instincts.
There's a group of women that have signed a vow. They've given things as collateral, and they're trying to recruit other women to do this.
A lot of people didn't want to participate more in these things, but a lot of women are still like with this idea that nothing was wrong in the group. They don't understand that esclavitude is wrong because they thought that the leader had the truth. There are many people who still follow Osho's teachings. You will certainly recognize some of those images. Osho began to gain attention in the late 1970s. He impacted his followers with his doctrine and many traveled to see and hear him. The teaching he shared had a mixture of beliefs from different religions. He was also known as the Guru. He advocated freedom. There is a lot behind that community that Osho was founding, and I recommend you to watch Wild Wild Country if you want to learn a little more and draw your own conclusions. But I also leave some links. There are some articles that show more of the things that the document don't talk about. Sheila was his secretary and played a very important role in the story of the community. Many people work in inhuman conditions and at very low wages maintaining the community because they wanted to be close to Osho, but there is a period where Osho was in silence, so he is not accused of the things that happened in that period. People say that he was looking for creating a sustainable community, but there are strong testimonies of how they really didn't want to do that anymore. They were tired. Sheila and Osho were in such a big positions of power, and for me this is a clear example of abuse using beliefs and this emotional attachment to the leader.
I exploit them because that is the only way to wake them up. Exploitation is not necessarily evil, and I am a genius in exploitation.
He spent $250,000 a month? For sure.
According to Wing McCormack in his article, Also the Limits of the Human Imagination, he details many acts, and I felt very bad even reading them, but what he relates are points that the Netflix documentary did not address, and they are very important problems. Jean Merritt said that cults usually pursue single, white, young, middle and upper middle class people who have been taught to be open to innovative ideas and to try new experiences. They are usually intelligent, extremely idealistic and altruistic youth people. Osho also knew Western psychology and Western mysticism very well, and this is where I said knowledge is power, because he applied it to deliver his Western therapies and Eastern meditation such as yoga. Rajneesh and his helpers were extremely skilled in a wide range of techniques to manipulate and control people. Their techniques include chanting, meditation, Sufi dancing, staring at lights for long periods of time, and powerful music, all of which induce altered mental states. In McCormack's article, you can find out a bit about hypnosis. He knew how to use his words and tone of voice, and even the vow of silence can lead you to think whatever you want to think about him. So Osho came to have so much power of his followers at the point that he called himself this word that I don't know how to pronounce it, which means Lord or God. Now, there was a lot manipulation. There are testimonies in which women felt guilty if they didn't participate because they had to say yes to life, and if they refused, they were punished and labeled as selfish. There were also cases of there was control in the relationships. This strained the need to connect with only Osho. They were also forbidden to have children. Sterilization was encouraged, and if someone became pregnant, they were given the option to have or leave the commune. According to Osho, it was not good for you to have children because you wouldn't have the energy to be enlightened. If families came with children, they were separate from their parents because they belong to the community now. You can imagine the living conditions of the children. Warren Barnes said that it's a built environment that evocates most of the senses. It is color predominant, Osho pictures all the time. Michael Sprouse said these people are dedicated and dangerous. They are dedicated fanatics and they are armed. Usually in cults, it all starts with a period of time where the leader forms a bond with the people. It's a period of time where they study you, find a way to get into your head. The leader has the charisma and likes to control people, and may even get to the point that if you are no longer able to control them, it is better to end it all, which brings us to the next case. He preached the gospel. I put the questioning marks because I don't know what gospel he preached, especially in the beginning. He told his wife after he got married that he was actually an atheist. He began visiting churches with joyful, festival, energetic atmospheres, and in this adrenaline, energetic environment, people were like relieved of whatever was troubling them. He had a good memory. When he was in this show, he strategically selected people to show this social justice. He was a wolf in the church. He opened his own church. He focused on the problems of the community and looked for solutions. His preaching spoke of economic and social equality, which in those days and age was more shocking to hear because there was more racism. He took care of the elderly, which sounds good, but he took control of the elderly assets, their homes, their money. He gained trust from the community doing this, and he used money for campaigns, programs, good works. As he needed more labor, his new members were they of course wanted to change to the talks, and they really need work. So he did that. He saw the opportunity and he made them loyal to him as they depend on him and were easy to manipulate. The congregation grew and exploitation increased. Everything also was so distorted that he began to say that he was the reincarnation of Jesus, of Gandhi and Karl Marx. He also liked to test the loyalty of his followers. He used grape juice that he prepared, and he said that it was poison. These poison tests were only done with people who were already indoctrinated, not for the new members. Jones justified having a mistress because it preserved his spiritual powers, and justified but saying it was good for the girls. According to him, he was the only heterosexual in the community, although later there were cases in which he offered himself to men as well, and many accept because they consider he was a god. Many women become pregnant and felt blessed by him, by his god, but he didn't let them give the babies. Many had except the wife of the main lawer to reduce the power he had in the comuna. There also were physical and verbal disciplines in the community, boxing matches, measures he took when he was questioned. Also, it had stored information about the members, which gave him control of each one of them. He began to take groups of people to Guyana and start another comuna, calling the place the Promised Land. This is the Jonestown. They were full of fear. They had these white nights where they protect the comuna and they didn't sleep, and it made them more docile and easy to manipulate. If you wanted to leave the commune, you were punished. He censored also the news. Leo Ryan, congressman of the precinct, went to investigate. Everything was painted very well. Several people said it was the best thing that had happened to them, but a member passed a note to one of the journalists asking for help to escape. Several managed to leave, but James decided to finish with the congressman, which was a strategic move for his followers to see that everything that he was saying was true. He gathered everyone together and told them they would come to torture everyone and they wouldn't be able to fight, so they all died together.
If we can't live in peace, then let's die in peace.
In Taylor Martin's article, we can find in this case lying, deception, manipulation for profit or self-satisfaction, irritability and aggressiveness, open disregard of the safety of himself and others, and lack of remorse for actions. The narcissist has the need of admiration, feeling of self-importance, and lack of empathy. Now Jared Leto, why I put him here? Jared is a musician, he has power, and maybe this is a conspiracy theory. But I wanted to put this in the video because they themselves say they are a cult. Maybe as a joke, but I don't think we should take these things as a joke or as a form of humor, because we don't really know what can happen. I don't know. It's an island. There are people with power, and he's an idol right now. The followers spend a lot of money to see him, so we don't know what can happen. We all know that power comes with a lot of responsibility. Well, yeah, but you can be a potential abuser. I don't think it's a cult, but just in case, I put it here because we have to be cautious. No one ended up in a cult because they wanted to. It was all painted pretty at the beginning, but let's hope that's not the case with Jared Leto. If you are a believer, touching the subject does not affect God, it does not affect Christ, it evidences human evil. Even in the Bible, we find many passages, horrendous things we are capable of doing. These passages have even taken out of context to say that the Bible influenced people to do bad things. I think they forget that the Bible is historical, and these texts are just an example of our nature as human beings and how we tend to do evil. Lately, I have come across Christian people who are evidencing the problem, looking for solutions, generating support groups, and touching the subject in the church so that the people who are there also identify the signs of a possible abuser, which I think is great, because highlighting the problem is not to attack, it is to exhort, it is an act of love and seek changes. Mainly, I want to recommend these podcasts, especially these 2 episodes. If you are a believer, if you are not a believer and you're curious to know how the issue is beginning to be addressed in church. Also, I want to say that not all churches are like this. I want to make it clear. This is a misconception that in the church one is going to find good people, and even pastors, leaders are put on an altar as perfect, that questioning any word that comes out of them, it is like questioning God. So we have to touch the ground and understand that the church is full of imperfect people. We are like any person outside the church, and as a community in the church, what we want is to support each other in knowing God, exhorting each other to do good and to stop doing evil things. If the Christian church depends in the Bible, then the church is expected to act in love for one another. There is no one better than other. There is an order, of course. All are called in different areas, but all should be treated as equals and not put anyone on a pedestal. Now we have the Bible and we have access to it, and that's a privilege. So if you're a believer, I encourage you to read it and to ask questions, to analyze it. If you search God, that doesn't mean that you just have to search God in church. You can also do it in a personal way, and from my own experience, I can tell you that it is much nicer to hear His word directly. There is a lot of power in media. They have a large audience. As an example, I will give you Benny Hinn. I can only say that these preachings are another level. The show plays a very important role in moving people's emotions. And when I see these interviews and hear them say that they are rich because they have given more to the churches, I got to thinking, and coaches that claim to teach you how to be rich, but they get rich just by teaching you how to get rich. So I truly don't understand. But anyway, that's not the purpose of a pastor. It's not to teach you how to be rich. It's to share the gospel.
In the name of Jesus, debt-free condos, debt-free apartments. Someone will walk up to these people and give them a check. And I want you to give something with 120 in it. You say, why 120? It's not a gimmick. 120 is the number in the Bible for a new season.
Here they are, the miracles, and now give me the money. God can heal if that is His will, but I'm not sure if God will want to be part of a show to manipulate people. According to my research, He doesn't pass people that are noticeable handicapped. I would like to add that Hinn apparently repented of his teaching.
I think it's offense to the Holy Spirit to place a price on the gospel. I'm done with it.
And now about Kenneth, Copeland.
Whatever you do right now, don't you stop tithing.
Also moves emotions. You hear words like I demand, I declare, and vain repetitions to demonstrate spirituality. he also have these programs that, according to him, it's a bridge that unite them in faith. I want to be clear with this. As a Christian, as a group of people, we want to give, but it shouldn't be used as a product. And also this made me think about indulgence, which was practically a piece of paper on which you bought forgiveness for your sins, which is not biblical at all. And I know I talk a lot about the Bible because if we as Christians believe in Jesus, we also believe in the Bible. So let's understand what we believe. Salvation is not bought, neither with money nor with works. Kenneth has also thrown his provisions out of the Bible, moving things around according to what he wants to get out of the congregation. And also he has a luxurious lifestyle. His iPods, his mansions, what he earns goes into his pocket. And it hurts me because we know that there is so much poverty. The distribution of wealth is too unfair. Something that I hear was you must have a spirit of poverty, that is why you're poor, or you lack of faith, that is the reason why you're not cured. I mean, where do they get that? Where is the will of God also? We like to support missionaries to see that our pastor doesn't starve, because it is work, it is time. And I don't know if you had seen how real pastor works, but he visits people, he ways to help the poor, elders and things like that, also preparing the studies and all the things to share. So it's a lot of time and it's work, and we want them to have food. We want to cover the expenses of the place. You need money to pay that also. And as a preacher don't have a normal job, let's say a normal job, he can cover that. But each one gives according to his heart and his relationship with God. It's not like the pastor is saying, how much are you going to give this month? That's not how it works. That is between you and God. Also, that doesn't make you more spiritual. And also it's wrong if they are saying that you are going to be millionaire. Those passages that these preachers are using are out of context. So if you want to understand it better, you can see those videos.
Tithe was never, in the Old Testament, a means of free will giving to the Lord. It was the way the theocracy was funded. And the tax collectors were the scum, because they were Jews who bought tax franchises from Rome and then prostituted them into a way to get rich, like Zacchaeus and Matthew. It's not an indulgent kind of thing. There are no guarantees, however, that you're going to be rich at all. The prosperity gospel is a deception. It's a pyramid. It's a scheme. It's a con job that makes the people at the top very, very rich.
There are churches that are transparent with everything that comes in and goes out, and even the pastor doesn't get to touch the money. That's my experience, and I thank God for having that experience. But there are also churches that are preaching prosperity. They say that God will give you a lot and will provide for you if you give. But biblically, God says that He will give you what you need. Always. That has nothing to do with God's provision. There are cases not only with the use of money, but also with physical and emotional abuse. Passages are taken as excuses. We must recognize that these problems exist and have the humility to seek solutions, not just ignore that this may occur because we are a good church. This will never happen to us. We have to stop thinking that. People think that if you question the leader, you are like the black sheep. They could come to you and say, how dare you question him? And maybe you are out of faith and things like that. And you maybe feel that something is wrong with you. I want you to know that if you're not sure of something, you can ask. If you don't find the answer there, you can find it in another church. And remember that any action that takes powers over another is an attempt to use you, and it almost starts with words, can maybe lead to confusion and can end up in the person feeling trapped. If anything is clear to me, is that human beings tend to stray. to seek their own benefit, the attention and power can somehow consume us. Although it is clear that these people have their psychological profile, but I believe that we all tend to do evil. Many times we do things without analyzing whether or not we are affecting our environment or people around us. I want to put as an example a Luther who began evidencing that many things that were taught in the church were out of the gospel, and even Leo Decimus say that Jesus Christ was a fable and that he only rejoiced in the benefits he received. Leo Decimus didn't even believe in what he was preaching. Luther contributed translating the writings of the Bible, evidence the problem in the church, and things changed, and Luther began to gain more attention and move away from the Bible, also to teach what he believed. Many end up with the life of peasants by the influence of Luther, and he influenced with his book about the Jews and their lies in the eradication. Everybody can be manipulated, and as we saw in the cases, like, you can be really intelligent, even if they are at some point of disadvantage in front of the leader. That doesn't give the leader the right to do whatever he wants to do with them. And if you're not a believer, you may not be able to understand that faith and spirit is something important for us. Even with the cases, we notice that these people fall not only because of spirituality need, but because they want to find themselves the answer in themselves. When a person is trapped in abuse, they can be full of fear. There is a lot of manipulation. Everything seems nice. You think you are in a paradise, as it was in Osho's communes and James Warren City. You have the attention. They seem to understand you. You have a community. And when they have you, you might not even realize you're a victim of abuse. And maybe you could think that it's your fault. There are many cases that are silenced. Isolation is also a part of the abuse. They see no other reality, and they might believe that the way they are living is normal. If we love the people around us, we should act. And of course, it's not our responsibility to fix everybody, but if we can do something, warn them or go to the authorities, let's do it.